You might think this is just a normal game of rock, paper, scissors with a pretty lady in a bikini, but actually, here in Japan, this is a variation called Yakyuken, which involves a lot more dancing, a lot less clothes, and of course, there are video games based on this. So, let's have a look at some, shall we? I'll be reviewing several Yakyuken games spanning across a lot of different consoles, and pit them up against each other to find the best of the bunch. But for these games to make sense, we should really take a quick look at Yakyuken's odd history, and why it's called something that basically translates to baseball fist. But I know you're itching to get to the ladies, so I'll keep it brief and put some footage of them up so as to hold your attention. Some might assume that the game Rock, Paper, Scissors has a Western or European origin, but it actually dates back to somewhere around the early 200s BC in China, shortly after hands were discovered. Although quite different than how we play now, this caught on in Japan and used the terms slug, frog, and snake instead of rock, paper, scissors. Although there were several variations using different animals, one version, using the hand gestures we still use today, eventually came to be known as Junken, and caught on in popularity in around the 19th century. Although apparently, by some records, it was already being used as a strip game as early as the 17th century. So how did this become known as Yakyuken? Well, baseball in Japan is called Yakyu, and one fateful baseball game in 1924 in Shikoku ended up in a humiliating 6-0 defeat for the local team. So, its manager, to help boost morale, came up with a funny dance on the spot using an old kabuki song. This caught on and became so popular that various musicians included the dance and lyrics into various cover songs, as well as other events also adapting the dance. These songs were usually titled some variation of Yakyuken, aka Baseball Fist, because of the baseball game they originated at. This went so far as to spawn a TV show in the late 60s called Konto 55 Go no Yakyuken, where beautiful women would be invited on to compete against the male hosts, and the clothes they lost would be thrown to the audience. This show was very popular and really did a lot to cement the idea that Yakyuken and its song is connected to stripping in the eyes of the general masses. So of course, way down the line, this led to Yakyuken video games, the first being on the Sharp MZ80K in 1981, which actually might be one of the earliest erotic video games. Ooh la la, what a monochromatic honey. This one was rather simple though, so why don't we move ahead a bit and look at some of the games I happen to have on hand, starting with the Famicom Disk System. Brought to us by Super Pig, we have Emi Chan no燃えろ Yakyuken, meaning Emi Chan's burning baseball fist. This is a Famicom Disk System game from 1988, and usually goes for quite a bit of money. But because the Disk System disc cards were designed with overwriting games in mind, it's easy enough to find copies on official discs that go for much cheaper. There's nothing in the way of options, you just load it up, switch to the B side of the disc when it tells you, and you're in the battle. Unlike the rest of the games I'll be reviewing, this one actually has some skill involved when choosing what hand to play. Normally, Junken is a game of luck, but here you can actually see which hands Emi, the girl you're going up against, is cycling through. It's up to you to choose between paper, rock, or scissors, and then when the timing is right, press the A button. If you win, Emi will lose a part of her clothing, but if your timing was off, you will lose a pair of, underwear. You see, this game has a very deep underwear health system. You both start off with 9 pairs of underwear, which represents your clothing level. And with each turn, either you or Emi will lose a pair. If you can get her down to 0 pairs, then you win the game and you get to see her in the pixelated buff. That's easier said than done, however, as there's a bit of an unfair rule system in this game. Usually, when you play Junkin, if both players choose the same hand gesture, then neither player wins nor loses, you just try again. But in this game, if you tie, Emi will gain a pair of underwear again, as well as putting back on an item of clothing. This can be a bit frustrating, as later on, the hands she scrolls through go very quickly and seemingly at random. So even if your timing is good, it feels more like luck than anything, which means things can turn sour fast and she'll be dressed again in no time. Also, after you get her down to her underwear, Emi's pose will change and you have to do a special challenge. This is where a mascot-type character appears and presents you with a screen showing 3 stars. You must clear all 3 stars in a row without making a mistake. If you do make a wrong choice, the stars will return, and after that, even more clothing will be put back on. This gets really tough towards the end, and almost feels impossible at times. But if you do manage to get through it, you're rewarded with a topless, blushing Emi, and that's it. No scrolling image of her or multiple poses, just this. However, after she says game over, if you enter a special secret code, you do get one bonus image showing her from behind with her underwear that says love across the back, and a super special Super Pig message thanking you for playing. The graphics are of course nothing too advanced because it's on the Disk System, but Emi has a cute design with a big screen-filling sprite, and the music, while not too long, is catchy and plays in the background, making use of the Disk System's advanced sound capabilities. But with that being said, it's also extremely hard to win, and probably not worth the struggle for such a limited amount of images as your prize. I think for the rest of this series, we'll use the fantastic underwear system from this game to rate each title reviewed. So, what would I give Emi Chan's Burning Yakyuken on the underwear scale of 1 to 10? The graphics and music are quite good considering the console. The other games are 100% luck, but this one gives you a fighting chance. It introduced the underwear rating system. While the graphics are good for the time, there's only one girl to go up against, and she only has one set of clothes, so visually it's pretty limited. Even though it gives you a fighting chance by seeing what Emi's choices are, it has the unorthodox rule of putting clothes back on even for a tie, which can quickly drain your underwear reserve. Not enough appearances of Super Pig. With its charming music and graphics, it's a fun early game, but also gets very hard towards the end. So all in all, I would give Emi Chan's Burning Yakyuken 5 out of 10 pairs of underwear. From here on out, we'll move on to more advanced consoles, which means more women, more pixels, and more dancing. So be sure to stay tuned for the next episode when I jump over to the PC Engine, the coolest looking console ever made.